So I wanted to put together a little video about how I plan on addressing the bushings that mount the rear diff cover to the actual rear subframe. These are the original Volvo bushings, and unfortunately they are no longer available. They're the same bushing used for the 960, except I think they only use one bushing, but these are no longer available, and I really want to replace them because you can kind of see they're cracked a little bit and they're old and nasty, and I just want to replace all these bushings. These were an absolute pain to get off. There's this white chalky powder that gets stuck between all the bushings and the aluminum. Maybe it's some sort of aluminum oxide or something. That's probably what it is. But basically what I plan on doing with these is creating my own poly bushings and using 3D printing to actually create a mold to cast those bushings in. So I want to show that process and how I did that. And basically I'm going to mock up a quick mold in CAD, 3D print it, and then I can cast the actual bushing in there and check fitment and whatnot. So we're going to switch over to CAD. I'll show you the mold I made and everything. We'll get it 3D print it, and then we'll get it cast.
So here's the negative mold I created in Fusion 360. Literally must have taken maybe 15 minutes. Basically just got a couple quick measurements and was able to produce a cylinder in the center for where the bushing actually goes on to the diff cover, and also this little lip here. And that lip there is basically for keeping the bushing from moving too far in the axial direction when it is clamped into the rear subframe. So let's get this 3D printed, and we'll try casting a couple of these bushings and see how they turn out.
So to get the mold 3D printing, I used a really low infill percent because basically I want to be able to break the plastic apart really easily to get the bushing out of the mold itself. So we got about 50% done on this, and we'll get that done and get one cast up and see how it turns out. Piece finished 3D printing. You can see there is a little support I had to add for the lip on the bushing. But yeah, you can see it's basically just a negative mold of the bushing. So we'll get that support all ripped out, and we can see how the stock bushing fits in here and make sure it all fits real nicely. It's obviously not going to go down all the way, but we'll see how it fits and everything. So the first polyurethane I attempted to use was this Color Pro Specialty Resin and Chemical, and I guess this is a casting resin. I thought all the polyurethanes were basically the same, and this just came out terrible. Like, it's a rock, and there's so many bubbles in it because it cured so fast. So I did more research, and what you want is a polyurethane rubber. So I bought this Smooth On Vitaflex 60. It's slightly softer than this, so it'll be more rubbery, and it's actually going to be rubber instead of a brick. So I'm going to do a little test pour in these cups right here, these ketchup cups, and see how it turns out. And I also bought some legit urethane pigment because watercoloring, it does not work. And I also bought some legit smooth on release agent because WD-40 actually reacts with polyurethane and causes all kinds of issues. So first round, horrible, but I learned a lot, and I think it's good to show you guys that, you know, not everything happens on the first try. Alright, so I'm going to try doing the new stuff in the bushing mold. I just got done a test pour, and it's pretty good. It's still not fully cured, so it's still a little rubbery, but I think this is going to work really well. And I'm also not sure if I poured it the exact correct ratio because I kind of just eyeballed it. But this round, I'm actually going to fill up both these Dixie cups to the exact top, so that it's the exact same amount. I'm going to pour it into here. We're going to mix it up, add the pigment, and then we're also going to use our universal mold release on the mold that we 3D printed. So let's give it a try. All right, so let's go ahead and combine the two parts. We got 2 equal amounts, and this stuff takes a while to set up, so we have a lot of time to work with it and get the proper amount of dye in and get it nice and mixed up. So let's get to it. This stuff is real thick. After I record this frame, I'll go ahead and scrape the rest of that in. Alright, like I said, I'll scrape the rest of that in after I'm done recording. Let's pop open the pigment. And just a little bit. Oh. There we go. And start stirring. See, we're gonna get a nice blue color. Now I'm gonna continue stirring this, and we'll hit that with the mold release, and we'll get it poured. All right, I got this sprayed with the release agent, so we're gonna go ahead and do the pour and give it a couple hours and see if it starts setting up. See, it's starting to release some of the bubbles. But let's give this a try. Pour it real slow so we don't introduce too much air, if any at all. You can see how nice this stuff pours. It's real nice and viscous. Unlike that other stuff that was basically water, and it would dry so fast that it would introduce so much bubbles, so many bubbles. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that, I'll finish topping it off and we'll let that sit and see how it comes out. Got it all topped off. You can see it's starting to release some of the bubbles. The old stuff, I had so many issues with bubbles because basically it would cure so fast that the bubbles wouldn't be able to be released in time. So hopefully this works quite a bit better since it takes quite a bit more time to cure. Got the bushing out of the mold. It's still curing, so it's still a little rubbery, but like it came out really good. Came out pretty well defined. A little bit of bubbles on the bottom, but that's okay. It's not gonna be perfect. So I'm gonna let this keep curing, and hopefully in another 6 or 7 hours it gets a little harder. So I ended up casting a second version here. And the reasons I wanted to do this were I wanted to try and perfect the whole air bubble situation. So I poured it a lot slower and I would let it sit. This stuff takes so long to cure up to an hour. So I pour a little bit, let it sit to get the bubbles out, and I would just keep pouring a little bit at a time so that I didn't trap any air bubbles. And you can also see I made the inner hole a lot smaller. Now it's 1 inch hole. And this, you can see the old one just slides on. It's way too loose. This one, you actually gotta, let's see if I can do this with one hand. There we go. You gotta actually give it some force to get it on. So this way, the bushing's not gonna be, well, the case isn't gonna be sliding in and out of the bushing. So this one came out really good. It's still setting up a little. I mean, they're pretty hard. This one's fully cured, and you can see it's pretty hard. And once it's actually on here, it's really, like, it's not flexing at all. So let me throw this one on real quick. I'll try and get it all the way on. See if I can do this with one hand. And like, I mean, it's a solid bushing. There we go. So this stuff, this is the Vitaflex. It just worked really well, and I'm really happy with the results. So I'm printing a second mold right now. We're gonna do one more, and we'll have this whole diff cover all finished up and ready to go with new bushings. I mean, this top one, this is my second version. This one just came out really good. You can see there was like a couple air bubbles here and here, but it's relatively solid. And yeah, I mean, it's a really fun little project, and I think they came out really well, and I think the hardness of them is perfect, and I think they're gonna work really great.